every small business, they think they have, operations, in hand and they know what they're doing, but really what they're doing is
You didn't start a business to put out fires, but here you are, holding the extinguisher. Business isn't theory, it's pressure, late nights, tight margins, the thing that keeps breaking no matter how many times you fix it. When the room's on fire, the amateurs shout, the pros stay calm. That's the Fixers and Founders way. Part discipline, part rebellion. We walk into broken systems, find the pulse, and make it run clean. Because calm isn't weakness. Calm is a strategy. We're operators, builders, problem solvers. Born from the grind. Built for the builders. Join us now as we chat with fixers and founders just like you. Let's jump in.
Welcome to Fixers and Founders, where vision meets velocity. I'm Tony.
I'm Forrest.
If you're running a real estate brokerage, a franchise, or anything with multiple locations and moving parts, you know how quickly growth can turn into friction. More people, more systems, more decisions, and somehow less clarity. Today's guest matters. Guy Barretta has spent his career inside high-growth environments, from Microsoft and the early days at Yahoo to leading growth and strategy at Coldwell Banker, and building a track record that includes over $180 million in investment real estate transactions. Today, he is Barretta Consulting, known by many as the COO Guy, the person founders call when operations start to lag behind growth. He works with real estate and franchise owners to take the operational weight off their shoulders and bring structure, clarity, and control back into the business. If your business is growing but not getting easier to run, this conversation is for you. Let's get it done.
sounds good.
I love the COO Guy. That's great.
I came up with that myself, so I'm very proud of it. No marketing shtick.
Yeah, that's good. So let's jump in. You've spent your career across tech, real estate, franchising, Microsoft, Yahoo, Coldwell Banker. My goodness, that's an impressive resume. What pulled you into the COO seat specifically?
Well, I came out of sales, primarily. So I was in a sales role, for most of my career. And then as I pivoted into Coldwell Banker and their corporate entity, I started getting more into, the growth aspect of our clients and our prospects and our affiliates, and trying to help them, kind of see the opportunity that was in front of them through M&A and expansion. And a lot of that starts with, how are my operations currently running? Because we all know that you really can't look at growth or an expansion if everything isn't running smoothly within your own organization. So there's that internal growth and then an external growth. And through that, that iteration of that business, one of our clients, one of our affiliates actually reached out to me and asked me to, come up and run their operations and kind of take it to the next level. And I did that for several years. And then I saw the need not just to be able to work for one company, but work for several at a time in an industry where there isn't really a leadership and executive team. And that's where I started Barretta Consulting, so that I could really work with, real estate brokerages and other franchising companies to help them with that operational clarity and growth wherever they see fit.
Love taking experience that you learn and translating that into a business. That's a cool
That's
part of what we get to do.
That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, Guy, in real estate and franchising, a lot of owners are strong on sales and growth, but then they're weak in operations, which obviously, that's what you fix. Where do you see that gap show up most often in the clients that you work with?
Well, so that is a challenge. But in the franchising industry, I'll let you in on a little secret. 95% of the people that become franchisees are entrepreneurs for the first time. So from their perspective, they come from a world just like we did, right? We're all fractional solopreneurs now, but they came from a world where someone was telling them what to do every single day, no matter how high up they were, unless they were the president of a Fortune 100 or Fortune 50 company, someone was telling them what to do. And now they become an entrepreneur for the first time, and they're leaning into the opportunity with franchising and the franchisor to help them with growth and operations. But that's not the role of the franchisor. So I come in and I work with them from an entrepreneurial spirit to say, okay, let's get your operations in line. So you're really working hand in hand with the franchisor, and we can take you to where you want to be, both operationally and from a growth perspective. And then the real estate brokerage side, every real estate broker out there was in sales. Can't do real estate, you can't be a real estate broker if you haven't done real estate sales. So for many, it's hard for them to get out of that idea of chasing deals and actually running a business. But if they want to exit the business, if they want to have a succession plan, they need to look at building their business and building the company and stop worrying about their sales and how, this deal is closing and this deal is closing, and really focusing on building what they have.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've worked with a franchise. One of the clients I work with has a franchise, and they think that franchise playbook is going to tell them everything they need to know operationally, and it just doesn't. It gives them a framework, but not all the details and how to actually make it work.
That's 100% right. And the framework is important, but you still have to execute on when you need to execute. And let's be honest, if it works in one market and certain things work in one market, that doesn't mean it's going to work in another market. I'm in Scotch Plains, New Jersey. My market is different than Alabama. My market is different than Texas. My market is different than even 15 minutes away in New York City. Unfortunately, franchisors don't tell you what your market is like. They just say, hey, good luck, and we're really excited to have you.
Yeah,
And thanks for paying us the initial
I was going to
franchise
say,
fee.
give me the $50,000. I'll give you the playbook. And thanks for having me.
Exactly right.
That's good stuff. So when a brokerage or franchise starts growing quickly, more agents, more locations, more volume, what are the first things that tend to break?
The operational consistency and having an aspect of leadership. And what I mean by that is many franchisees and many brokerages, they think they have leadership. And that leadership is basically just running an office or running a group of agents. And they'll get together once a week and they think it's a great meeting, but no one's ever challenging that owner. And you have to surround yourself with people that are going to challenge you and say, I probably would do it this way, or we should really look at this, or we should think out of the box. And very often they don't have those individuals. That's kind of, I don't want to call it like a yes man, yes woman mentality, but people are just, saying, hey, my checklist, I've done everything on my checklist, so I'm good to go. This guy has done everything on their checklist, so they're good to go. But that's not leadership. So I see a failure there. And that's honestly where I come into play because, and I'm sure you guys can attest, right, Tony and Forrest? Like, we tell it like it is.
The
You know, we,
consigliere.
yeah, sometimes you love hearing from us, and sometimes you're like, "Ooh, that was a brutal call that I just had with Guy or Forrest or Tony," right?
A
And
real
that's
friend
okay.
stabs you in the front.
Yeah, exactly right. And so that's always a challenge. And then we always see something, with regards to the tech stack, and you want to chase the shiny object. AI is the shiny object. Everybody wants to have AI, but they don't even know what that means. They don't know what that means, and they want to adopt and put things in place, but you just put things in place to put them in place with no rollout, no adoption, no opportunity to really grow what you put in place, just as a failure across the board.
How about no foundation for how are you going to store data and how are you going to secure data? And what happens when the guy develops the AI app that works for you, then leaves and he's the one that has the admin password? I mean, it's just,
Yeah,
it's
I haven't had that yet. Sounds like you have,
get ready,
Forrest.
get ready.
Guy, you step in as the fractional COO guy into these businesses. What are you typically walking into on day one?
Wow, that's a good question. Lack of clarity. I mean, I keep on coming back to that word clarity, but I think it's individuals that know they need to change in some capacity, and that could be a personal change as a business owner or just a change within the business to move beyond what they currently are. They know there's something wrong. And sometimes they know directly what it is. Sometimes they don't. I always do a SWOT analysis. I do the SWOT analysis on the business and I do it on the individual. And it's interesting. The SWOT analysis on the business, they kind of nail the SWOT analysis on themselves. It's a little bit different, right? And you learn as you're working with individuals how they interact, how they perceive themselves, how others in the organization perceive themselves. Usually in the businesses that I'm working with, there's just, I don't want to say finger pointing, but everybody's looking at the other person as a scapegoat and not really focusing on what they control and what they can bring to the table to make the place better. And they have to believe that they want to make the place better. And, that's something you have to reinforce.
Love the personal SWOT analysis. That's a new one for me. Hadn't thought about
That was
doing that
takeaway for
on
me.
the
I was
individual.
thinking, like, what does that kind of look like? Yeah, it was really
It's
interesting to me when
scary
you said that.
sometimes. It's very scary.
Yeah, that's a scary mirror, man. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
But what I did, I'll tell you what I did is I went to ChatGPT and I told ChatGPT, because as I was working in it and I had quite a few hours in there, like, what do you know about me?
Hmm.
And what am I really good at? What am I really focusing on? And what do I need to improve upon? I make the joke that my ChatGPT has gotten a little snarky, and um but it really nailed it. Like I felt like it nailed like where my inconsistencies are as a fractional COO and where my strengths are. And that's kind of like my guiding force.
One of my mantras has been and is, in God we trust, all others bring data. So even for myself, I've only been doing it just past a year. Every single day, without fail, of every client that I've served every day, I give myself a daily recap, just a blurb about what I did that day. So I have that year's worth of data to dump in there and then even analyze it, at that level too. That was very interesting.
And I think that's good because they need to know that you're you're working on their behalf, right? And you're working with them and not against them. And sometimes you do have employees that are kind of like, I don't want to say they're hurting the business, but they mean it. They're because of
You
their
can
effort,
say
they
it.
may be
It's
working
true.
because of
We
their
say
effort,
true
they're
things.
working against you.
Yeah. All right. You've worked across both real estate brokerages and franchise systems. What are the biggest differences in how these businesses need to operate to be able to scale well?
With regards to real estate brokerages, they have to essentially take a step back and move away from working in the business and working on the business. And that's, as we know, that's not easy, right? They working in the business is chasing leads, chasing opportunities to list and sell a property. You could refer that to an agent. Company still makes money, you make money, and really just focus on building the organization that you need to build and want to build so that you could have an exit strategy at some point. And on the franchise side, I think it's the challenge is they really do lean into the framework a little bit too much, like we were talking about, Forrest,
Mhm.
and focus too much on that franchisee relationship, but they're not focused on doing what they need to do with what they have to propel themselves in the market that they're serving. Additionally, every franchise organization out there says they have a great networking group. Well, it's a great networking group that meets once a year. If you're not reaching out to others in your network and saying, hey, my name is Guy Barretta, I own XYZ franchise in this market. Curious, how are things working with you? These are my challenges. Did you have these challenges? No, Guy, I didn't have these challenges, but I had these challenges. And really feeding off of each other. And you're just not seeing that in the franchise networks anymore. And that's really depressing to a certain extent because you are paying a lot of money to be part of these franchises and getting that business up and running, and you really should be focusing on helping each other out.
Yeah, it's taking advantage of resources that are available. It's a shame that people don't do it. But I also like the exit strategy. That's one of the first questions I ask when I talk to a prospect the first time, and most of them have deer in the headlights. What do you mean exit strategy? I'm
Correct.
like, well, you need to have an exit strategy, even if it's 10 years from now, to make all the foundational decisions today work.
I call it the "Don't be my dad" mantra. My dad was a entrepreneur. He took the business over from my grandfather, seafood purveyor, sold seafood at a seafood restaurant. When my dad died, the business died.
Hmm.
That business was worth money.
Yeah,
But when my dad died, that business died. He sent me and my sister to college for a reason, didn't want us to take over that business. And I look at others and I say, don't be my dad. Figure something out, have a plan in place, and then have a second plan, right? Because if your kids aren't taking it over, what's your plan B? And it's surprising that people don't think that way. It's refreshing when people do.
that is a powerful story. Don't be my dad. That's
Yeah,
big.
Mm-hmm. So, Guy, I don't want to
sure.
get off on a rabbit trail with you, though. The real estate side of things, a bit near and dear to my heart. I had a brokerage in Chicago for about 15 years that I owned and operated.
Wow,
And
that's
I'm
awesome.
curious to know, Guy, you mentioned some of the franchisees not maybe following the franchise playbook, or there's not a lot of opportunity there. What sort of playbook have you developed now to serve the real estate broker clientele? If you could
So I
surmise it a
have
little bit.
I have a brokerage operations blueprint, which, we kind of go through and try to establish where they have issues, where they don't have clarity, where they're not succeeding essentially. And then I also have, what I call the goal setting aspect. So I broke down being in the real estate industry, most of the times goals are always data and goals are always how much volume you're going to bring in, how many transactions you're going to do. And I kind of took that all out and said, let's focus on quarterly goals that are meaningful to you and impactful to you. And then we're going to go out and do it for each of your agents. And if we simplify that, and I call it the power of three, it's 3 goals per quarter. And that's resonating. It just allows people to have more clarity. We're in an age where everything's coming at us all at once, and we all have minds that are racing now. 30 years ago, minds weren't racing the way we are. So to be able to just like simplify and clarify has been just a huge, huge boon for the brokerages that I'm working with. And it allows them to focus on what they need to focus on to move on.
I believe there's a gap there too that could be filled for the CRM alone. I mean, in getting people to be able to data dump, and get all that aggregated together for them so they don't have to think on their feet about these relationships. They claim real estate's a relationship game, right? That's your centralized
Right.
relationship manager. And most oftentimes I think that's an afterthought, or it's not well adopted. It's certainly not well leveraged. And if you turn that knob, I think that will enact lasting change, in these brokerages. Were you finding that at all?
Yeah. I mean, I asked a brokerage owner yesterday, like, so if a lead comes into your website, what happens to that lead? And he didn't know. He
Yeah.
literally did not know.
Well, it's great to know that there's such opportunity out there, Guy. I'd
Yeah.
love to serve some of
Yeah.
these real estate clients too.
That's a challenge. And I knew when I was the chief operating officer for the brokerage that I was with, I knew we were probably losing 1 to 2 million a year just on our lead gen, because we were passing the leads off to agents and they weren't following up with the leads. So we put an ISA in place, which is an internal sales agent that nurtured those leads to get to a point where now the agent will transact. Cause right? Like you can give an agent something and they're not going to do anything with it. They don't stay on top of the lead for 6 weeks, and most leads transact or want to do something 6 to 8 weeks out, not the day that they reach out to you.
So bringing it kind of all home then, last question, and then we got a couple wild card, more personal questions for you. If an
Sure.
owner feels buried in the day to day, which they do, and the business is starting to feel heavier, which it does, what's the first move aside from calling the COO guy that they should make?
They should try to figure out where they're spending most of their day. And is that a revenue generating opportunity or just maintenance opportunity? And there's a key difference, because we want to be focused on bringing in more revenue. Maintaining your company, that's great, that's important, but more time should be spent on bringing in more revenue than just worried about maintaining what you currently have. And that may be just simplifying, and maybe you have a tech stack of 20 different things, and maybe you don't need 20 of them, right? Maybe you only need 5. I was with a company that forgot that they had a tech stack that they were paying $500 a month for. And I saved them $500 a month by a simple phone call off of the financial audit of their P&L. And those are the things that we do. Do I dare ask what that is?
It's like a rocket ship, man. You're just helping them
That's
out.
your
Yeah,
rocket,
the
man.
rocket ship.
Good on you. That's good stuff. Saving them money.
All
Yeah,
right.
saving money is the key.
So we didn't really talk about where I'm from, but I'm a damn Yankee too. I grew up in Delaware. So
Okay.
I'm a big fan of Philly cheesesteaks, and I always was affinity toward who has the best Philly cheesesteak. But let me ask you this. If someone's visiting you, what's one meal or spot you tell them they have to experience in your area?
That's a good one. If it's a cheap meal, I say Jimmy Buff's, because they got to get the Italian hot dog, which is, I don't know if you've ever had Italian hot dog, but it's like it's a big, big bun. They put 2 hot dogs in there, which are really Italian sausages. They put peppers, onions, potatoes in there, mustard, and ketchup. That's like your cheap meal at Jimmy Buff's. But if we were going to go sit down and I was going to have my favorite meal, it would be, a place like Sterling Tavern, which, has homemade brews. They make a port wine cheddar burger, which I think is one of the best burgers I've ever had. So that's where I'm taking them. I'm a simple man. I go out to eat a lot. I mean, I do, but that's a great, great venue for food.
Thanks, Tony, for that question, because now I'm hungry.
Yep,
Yeah.
we're getting us hungry, headed off into the weekend. I'll have one more for you before we get into that, Guy. Thanks so much for sharing the time with us, sharing your mind with us. How can people best reach out to you if they want to learn a little bit more, connect as a peer or put you to work?
My email address is Guy Barretta at the COO Guy.com. So Guy, GUYBARRETTA at the COO Guy.com. My website is the COO Guy.com. And I'm very active on LinkedIn, just as both of you are. And you can DM me and reach out and say, let's have a conversation. And I don't charge for those conversations. And I promise you'll come away with something, whether you decide that I'm right for you or not, you'll come away with something.
Love it. What's a take that you have about New York City that most people would disagree with?
That is very friendly. I've seen amazing acts of humanity in New York City, and I think people don't realize that. But it is a little bit dirtier than people think. But but and driving there, and here's the third one. And driving there, many people don't like driving there. I actually like driving in the city because it's kind of like driving in a video game.
Like Grand Theft Auto, right?
Yeah, like exactly like Grand Theft Auto. And but it's a great, great city. I'm blessed that I live so close to it. I'm probably not in there as much as I used to, but I used to commute there every single day. And that's like, even though I'm 15 miles away, that's a 45-minute to an hour train ride every day. And it's kind of a blessing that I don't have that time traveling anymore. And I can just wake up and go to my office.
I used to put on about 300 miles a day in the greater Chicagoland area, including Chicago proper, all up, down, left, and right. So I wonder who's the better drivers, Chicagoans or New Yorkers. I don't know. That'll be
I would
that'll be
probably,
a whole
so I went to
whole
school in
separate
Ohio.
episode.
So I would probably say Ohio's probably the worst drivers, but I would say Illinois drivers are pretty good. Yeah.
I agree.
It's good stuff.
Salute.
All right, that was Guy Barretta, a reminder that growth doesn't just create opportunity, it creates complexity. And in industries like real estate or franchising, the difference between scaling and stalling usually comes down to operations. Guy's work shows that when you get the systems, people, and processes aligned, the business starts working the way it's supposed to. If you're feeling buried in day to day, this one is worth revisiting. I'm Forrest,
I'm Tony.
and this was Fixers and Founders.
Oh, my darlings, look at you. Still here with me till the end. That's how I know you're one of us. The fixers, the founders, the ones who build in the chaos and still manage to laugh through it. Drop a comment, share your sparks, and connect with each other. This is where the net weaving begins. Like, share, and subscribe to keep the fire blowing. Until next time.